Hi, if you remember, I presented this demo before, where I made a hole in the wall using the screen space. If you notice, I have corrected in some way so that the hole doesn't go through all the walls indefinitely, but only through the walls in front of the character. The solution has some problems, for example in the corner of the walls, but this is the way of calculating the dip. Besides, I am modifying the screen UV coordinates to correct the proportion of the hole. This is the wall scene as I am using multiple instances, and here is the shader. I am using the prepass alpha to improve transparency, and I am also using global variables to just have access from the main script. And here in GDScript, I get the dimensions of the character and pass them into the shader through the global variables. Also, I am using a Boolean variable to set it from outside on an area 3D, so I improve the quality of the deep testing. In this illustration, you can see the use of the bounding box, and the center is just the half of the height of the model. As you can see, since I defined the pivot of the character in the center at the bottom, I am only adding the height of the bounding box and dividing by 2. Now, I have to define different points on the character to always determine which is the dimension of greater distance in camera perspective. Of course, since these points don't exist in 3D space, I have to define them as vectors and then rotate them with a matrix multiplication. Then, I will project these points onto the screen using the projection matrix. Here you can see the function responsible for this. In this drawing, you can see the projection of the points on the screen. I project the center as well as the 3 remaining vectors, and then I get the maximum distance from the center of each of 3 points. And with that, I draw the circle on the screen. Now you can see all that in action here. The dimension vectors projected onto the screen space, as well as the maximum distance between the center and these vectors. As you can see, the circle adjusts as I move the model in 3D space. Here is the code to find the maximum distance, and in these lines I obtain the screen proportion and adjust the coordinates to be a perfect square. I am using the center of the character projected in the screen space as a reference to scale the coordinates. I am just adding the noise here. This drawing shows why it's necessary to adjust the radio of the screen coordinates. Here is the code to draw the circle that uses this simple function. And finally, this is the code that makes possible to detect if the character is in front of the wall or it's behind. To project the points, I use a projection matrix. The projection matrix is used to project 3D coordinates onto the screen and also to convert 2D coordinates from the deep map into 3D coordinates. In this shader, I use both functions. The projection matrix often uses the deep map to perform the deep testing process, which is mandatory for drawing any shape on the screen. Using this function, I convert each fragment of the wall into a 3D coordinate. I am using fragcore.c, that is the deep map of each fragment in relation to the camera. And here is the function that projects the 2D coordinates, and this is the opposite function. Both of them use the projection matrix. And here I am getting the position of the camera, and then the distance of the center of the character and the camera, and finally the distance of each fragment of the wall. Then I compare the distance of the character with the distance of each fragment. In this way, I can define whether there is an occlusion or not. Now, this drawing shows how I do the depth comparison of the character using only the center and comparing it with all the fragments. The way the GPU works is quite different from the way the CPU works, so the dozens or maybe millions of fragments are all compared at the same time. Now, my solution is kinda weird because I am comparing one item against a large number of fragments. Maybe the comparison should be fragment by fragment, as deep testing really works. Although this will be possible with the new compositor effects capabilities, I have a feeling that it will open a Pandora's box of complexity that I don't want to face right now. Good enough is good enough.